Welcome back to United TV. I hope you're all good. Today, we're going to be talking mainly about the situation with Marcus Rashford, potentially a bit of a tug of war coming up between Bayern Munich and Arsenal, who are surprise contenders for his signature should that move to Barcelona break down. I just want to say a quick hello to everyone in the chat. We've got some familiar faces in the chat already, so I just want a big shout out to Neil Driscoll. Hope you're well, my friend. Yali Mamin as well. Hope you're good. We've got Rich, United TV 1878. Hope you're good, Rich. Pundit Cady, as always, as well. United Till I Die. We've got, who else have we got? We've got Ian there as well. I hope you're all good, everyone. If I haven't mentioned anyone, my apologies, but there's a lot of comments already, so great to see you all. If you haven't done already, please remember, hit the like button as well. That will really help. We're on the road to 1K at the minute, so it's all going really well here at United TV. And thank you so much for your support in the last few weeks, new faces and old. But big up, Neil. Hope you're good. Hope you're good. I'm just going to bring up the first story then. So this is maybe a new angle and maybe something we haven't thought about before on this story. But Barcelona, we know that they had an option to buy Marcus Rashford. This was a deal that it was meant to take place at £26 million. We know what Barcelona are like. We know what doing transfers with Barcelona is like, and it rarely goes smoothly. And as always, Barcelona, umming and ahhing, trying to renegotiate terms. It's reported that they're trying to negotiate a second year of a loan deal. Manchester United are not interested in that. They want a permanent transfer. And the main reason for that is this all is a domino effect on our ability to bring in a left winger as a replacement. So Manchester United are not going to move forward with a left winger replacement until Marcus Rashford is sold. That transfer to Barcelona is not a certainty. It's not set in stone. It's an option to buy. Barcelona are looking at other targets as well. So, it's all very much up in the air. And in a World Cup year, that's not great if we want to get this situation sorted quickly. But surprise contenders that have appeared in the news, as per the Mirror and other sources as well, these last 24 hours are Bayern Munich and Arsenal. So obviously Arsenal qualified for the Champions League final tonight. I hope some of you weren't watching that. But he'll be a surprise name to be linked with Gunners fans. But the rumour is that Arsenal are interested in cashing in on Leandro Trossard, who has probably been the first selection actually in the left wing position for Arsenal this season, ahead of Martinelli. But due to Trossard's age, due to his contract situation, which is due to expire in 2027, it's thought that Arsenal may look and see this as an opportune time to sell Trossard and bring in another quality option on the left-hand side, and hence Marcus Rashford's name has appeared. But in so much as for Bayern Munich, really, their left-wing options are Luis Diaz and Serge Gnabry. But Serge Gnabry has recently torn his adductor muscle in his thigh. He's going to miss the World Cup. That's already been confirmed. But he could be out for an extended period beyond the World Cup as well. So potentially a left winger is needed in their ranks to bolster their ranks as well. Just let me know what your thoughts are on this. I mean, do you have a preferred option? Is it something where you don't want to see Marcus Rashford go to another team in the Premier League? Or are you happy for him to go to Arsenal? Or do you want to see him move abroad? And if so, what are your choices between Bayern and Barcelona? Do we think there's any potential of any kind of swap deal there at all? Or are we just going to be concentrating on targets of our own? But United Till I Die, he's got in with his comment and he says 26 million to Arsenal. Please no, that would be a nightmare. Well, actually, the figure that is being rumoured, if this option to buy doesn't go through, which is at 26 million, it may well be a case that due to what is perceived as a low buy option in that Barcelona deal, that potentially Manchester United could look for a figure in excess of 30 million, maybe leaning towards about 34, 35 million if a deal is to take place with Arsenal and Bayern. But there's actually a rumour today that Bayern have put together a package for £40 million for Marcus Rashford. Now, There's no details of that package as such, but I would assume that it's to do with an initial transfer value and then maybe some clauses such as performance targets, etc., which could elevate the deal to that 40 million mark. But in terms of, I mean, if that's going to be holding up our left wing options, you'd like to think we're already, dotting the I's on some of those other deals that we're looking at, getting them ready, keeping them hot and active, ready to go when we do sell Marcus Rashford this summer, which it seems a certainty, but there's still a bit of an uncertainty about where that destination is going to be. Rich in the chat says Rashford is probably an upgrade for Arsenal. It's probably debatable, isn't it? It's debatable. I think Trossard's a good player, but he's not in his like teenage years anymore. He's probably, what is he now, 30 maybe, Trossard, 31. So he's probably coming towards the autumn of his career, if you like. Still a very good player, but I think someone that you could probably upgrade on if you're talking about a first team option. Whether Martinelli is an ideal upgrade as well is that's up for debate. I would suggest not. I think Martinelli's a good player, but he's probably not at that level that Arsenal really need if they're to kick on and really dominate English football. Rich says he just wants Barca to just pay up and get the deal done. Well, I did hear on the radio, actually, Rich, the other day that contrary to what the stories are in the media, that Barcelona are in a healthier financial position this summer, this time round. Now, we will never know the truth because Barcelona, they've got more PR than, I don't know, but they're brilliant at putting out stories saying they've got no money, they've got no funds to pay for any transfers, and then they go and splash X million on 3 players. So you just don't know what to believe when it comes to Barcelona, do you? Old Mickey, good to see you in the chat. Hope you're well. Mickey says, so bargain basement still for United, still reacting instead of taking the initiative. Well, hopefully, I mean, we are hopefully lining up players. So that's the hope. I mean, I would like to think we don't just wait for a player to be sold and then act, because then we're going to be well into the summer transfer window, potentially even after the World Cup, depending on whether Marcus Rashford does go to the World Cup or not. And so really you'd like to think we'd get those deals in place in principle, like we supposedly have done with Carlos Baleba. When the time comes that we can afford the transfer, then we'll act. So I'm hoping that's what we'll have done. Pundit Katie, hope you're well, says he loves Barca. It's the only club he's willing to give 100% for. He did, didn't he? Came out a few weeks ago, actually, Marcus Rashford, and he said how much he's enjoying life in Barcelona. Maybe that's him trying to force Barcelona's hand somewhat. Now, does that play into our hands or not? I would suggest maybe it doesn't put us in a great position if it looks like Marcus Rashford is kind of trying to persuade a move in one direction. It's probably not great for us, but those are the quotes that he came out with a couple, maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago now from Marcus Rashford. Rich says, I heard we might try and buy Balde from Barca. Yeah, so Balde, the left back, that was one of the names actually recently linked with Manchester United. So Balde, potentially there's a deal to be done there. It's unlikely to have a swap deal as such, but it is fairly, it's not uncommon for players to move in opposite directions, not necessarily as a straight swap, but a deal maybe we can help them, we scratch their back, they scratch ours, perhaps. That does rely on a good relationship between the clubs. Ollie Biscuit Barrel, I hope you're well. Good to see you in the chat. Ollie Biscuit Barrel says, don't care where Rashford goes. It's over with us. Move on. You don't care where your ex is, what your ex is up to. Excuse me. Why worry about Rashford? Yeah, and I think that's the view a lot of fans are going to have. For me, I don't really care where he goes. I don't care if he goes to Arsenal. I just want us to get the most money we can, and if that means we get the most money from Arsenal, then so be it. It's not really any skin off my nose. But he is a Manchester player through and through. He came through the ranks. It's always a bit of a heart wrench to see an academy player that you thought was going to represent the club for 10 or more years suddenly turn up somewhere else, and especially if they go and score against you, of course. But at the end of the day, Arsenal will just go and buy someone else if they don't get Rashford. So for me, it's not really, it doesn't really matter too much. I'm Titanium, became a member. Thank you very much for that. Thank you so much for that, Titanium. Uh, United TV member. Thank you for that. Broken Verdict says I would take that 40 million from Bayern. Yeah, I mean, there's the 40 million offer. That's only Bayern that we're talking about here. There's been no figure rumored from Arsenal or anything put forward, but it's being reported in the press today that Bayern have actually offered a 40 million package to United for Marcus Rashford. When given their injury worries in that forward line of theirs, with Serge Gnabry missing the World Cup with what seems to be quite a serious injury, there's going to be a good few months out. Then I think I think that story does add up. I think there were admirers of him last summer as well. So there is a long-standing interest there. If you believe the reports, of course, Nicholas Jackson is on loan there from Chelsea, but they don't have too many other options in their forward line who could come off the left-hand side. So yeah, it looks like Luis Diaz is going to probably be the only real, real player of quality that's there come the summer. So they're certainly going to be looking for a left winger, even if they don't get Rashford done. United Till I Die says it's strengthening a rival, but to get him off the books, he would be okay with it. Yarli's come in and said, we do have Cunha and Dorgo as wingers on the left. I don't see why we would want another one. Well, that is an interesting point, actually, isn't it? That's an interesting point because we do have two players there, like you say. Now, Cunha's long-term position, do we see him as a long-term left winger? And by long-term, I mean in 2 seasons' time. Do we think that Cunha is going to be playing off the left? Because for me, at the minute, he's playing there because Bruno Fernandes is playing in the number 10. I think Cunha's best position overall would be behind the striker as a number 10. Very effective off the left. Don't get me wrong. I think he's just a great player. He's a very, very good player. Someone that I was a big fan of at Wolves. Caused us problems on lots of occasions. But would he be more effective, more consistently if he was played in the centre? And that would rely on Fernandes becoming either a rotation option or leaving the club. So there's potentially over the next 2 years a shift there with Cunha. Now Dorgu is another one where that position is up for debate, but for different reasons. Dorgu was brought in more of as a left back or a left wing back as it was at the time to fit into Amrim's system. We've seen him play at left back. He did okay in some games, and in other games he struggled a bit. And we've seen him play at left wing. In some games he did okay. In some games he struggled a bit. And more recently, he's looked very good before his injury. So it's not certain where Dorgu's long-term future is. I think there's still question marks around the fan base. We've seen some evidence that he's got what it takes, but really it needs to be a bigger sample size. And going into the next season, I would be personally more happy to see Dorgu given the next 2 or 3 games, or substantial minutes, should I say, in the next 2 or 3 games to be able to better assess where he's at. But really, it's a risk going into the next season with Dorgu and Cunha, in my opinion. I think we could. I don't see why we can't go and get a replacement if Rashford's sold, who's a natural left winger, and it just gives us rotation options. You look at other teams around Europe, and they've got depth. PSG is a great example. They've got Desiree Doué. If he's out, then they can just bring in someone else. If they're out, they just bring in someone else. They've got 2 or 3 options for each position. So why should we be any different? Pundit Katie says threaten Rashford He'll return if a deal isn't agreed. Threaten Barcelona that no deal if the terms are not met. Yeah, this deal seems to be just dragging on and on, doesn't it? I don't understand why it's taken so long. Um, Really, we should have put an ultimatum down, but maybe, until recently, maybe there hasn't been any other credible options for Marcus Rashford in terms of, well, clubs coming in with the money, putting it on the table. But now we're told that Bayern Munich have put the money on the table, then that changes things significantly. Yali says it's the last position I would look at this year. I think there's more pressing options, I would say. I think central midfield. We've talked many times about that. Rich says I think Rashford has lowered his salary demands, and it's Barcelona being uh, the annoying party in this saga. Uh, yeah, that was the story, wasn't it? Rashford came out. He said he's enjoying life in Barcelona. He's willing to take a pay cut, but it's Barcelona trying to haggle on that transfer fee. United Till I Die says Rashford and Saka in the attack is pretty deadly. Although if Rashford jogs at Arsenal, they would eat him. Yeah, he wouldn't last very long, would he? If he started acting like he did in these last few games at United, yeah, uh, he wouldn't. It wouldn't be tolerated, and I don't think he would. To be fair, I think he's generally speaking a good professional. He's had a few misdemeanors over his time at Man United, but by and large, he was a good player for us, a good professional most of the time. Rich says, "Do we just do the same, pretending we don't have much money? Then the Glazers consider spending 1 billion on an IPL team." Well, the party line is, isn't it? They're trying to they're trying to tell us that there's not some huge war chest this summer. I don't believe that. I take it with a pinch of salt, particularly when we've qualified for Champions League. The original aim that we were told from the club itself was to qualify for European football, which means I think Europa League. That was what the financial projections were all based on. The fact that we've now qualified for the Champions League, there's no denying the extra income. We all know the financial benefits of that. It's going to be around 80 million just for qualification. We could lose every game in the Champions League next season, and we'd still be about 80 million better off. Now you've got to factor in that quite a few players in their contracts, most of them, especially the big earners, are going to have 25% bonus on top, which means the salary from this year is going to go up 25% next year because of the qualification. But we've got the qualification for the Champions League. We've also got the extra 10 million from the Adidas deal for next year as well. Plus, we've got an additional sponsor coming in on the sleeve, I believe, as well. We're looking for a training top sponsor as well. I don't know the latest on that one, but I'm sure Champions League qualification is not going to harm those kind of deals. So overall, we're going to be in a much superior financial position than what was projected. So I just don't buy these stories saying that we've got 150 million and that's that. I just don't believe it. This is what the club did last summer. We went into the summer with Mbermo and Cunha for a long time in that summer window. It looked like that was all that was going to be done. Then there was talk of strikers. We went over the Gyökeres and Sesko deal. Eventually, we got Sesko done. And then at the last minute, when Anana threw a couple of balls in the net at Grimsby Town, we end up signing Lamens as well. So, yeah, take those claims with a pinch of salt, I would say. Big up, Gregory. Hope you're well. Gregory's got a good point here. He says future loans need to have more than token penalties for walking away. Yeah, this is something that we got burnt by with the Sancho deal, wasn't it? Chelsea took Sancho on loan. We thought it was an obligation to buy. Turns out that it wasn't because they could just pay what is a pretty meager £5 million penalty, and they were able to just walk away from that deal. You can look at it two ways. You can look at it as, well, we've made 5 million for nothing, or you can look at it as it was really annoying because we didn't get the player out the door. So there's two ways to look at it, but I think we'll have learned from that. United Till I Die reminds us, yes, it would be pure profit on Marcus Rashford. Yeah, that would be, if we're getting 40 million for Rashford, the difference between maybe the 26 million and something, even if it was 35 million, the difference there, albeit only 9 million, if you just take those two figures on face value, it's enormous because that amount is, I think, tripled for homegrown players. So yeah, it's good in that respect. It's good on paper for the financials. Big up Berber. Hope you're well. It's Gaming Simp, otherwise known as Berber. Check out his channel if you can. Big Manchester United fan. Always supports the stream. So thanks for tuning in, Berber. Katie says Bayern is a better project for Rashford. Yeah, I mean, Rashford has been kind of in and out at Barca. He's had plenty of appearances. He hasn't always been a starter, so he's been more of a rotation option at Barcelona. He's played some good football there when I've seen him. Had a very good game against Newcastle in the Champions League. But you look at Bayern, and it just seems that a lot of their transfers work out. That's just how it seems on the face of it. And I think going into that team, he would be a scary addition to that team, in my opinion. I think he'd do really well there. Ollie Biscuit Barrel says 40 million from Bayern. Take it immediately. Offset the cost of Harry Kane. Well, we have done business with Bayern, haven't we, in recent years? Matthias de Ligt. You've got Mazraoui as well. Owen Hargreaves, if you want to go back that far as well. So there's history there. Katie says it reminds him of the Anthony deal. It was difficult to get done, but he left in the end. Yeah, I haven't heard much about Anthony recently. Wonder how he's getting on. Gregory says, would an additional left winger have an impact on Dorgu's development? I would say if the club are serious about bringing in a left winger, then I see Dorgu's. I see Dorgu as possibly playing a bit on the left back position and the left wing position. Now, whether that's good for his development or not, I'm not sure, but I could see him as one of those players. You think back to Saka at Arsenal, started out primarily as a left back, then he moved forward. Gareth Bale, very much the same. Does Dorgu need to just learn what it takes to play week in, week out in the Premier League? Because whilst he did it under Amrim, he was kind of in and out at times. His football suffered at times. And so does he need to just get minutes on the pitch. Basically, that's the best way to develop, isn't it? And then perhaps when we talk about maybe Cunha moving into the middle of the United attack in a year or two's time, could Dorgu then be one of those players on the left pushing for a start with another option coming in? It's just like opinion. It's not to say it's right or wrong, but you could look at it in the way that you may be suggesting, Gregory, which is if we bring someone in, what does that mean for Dorgu? And rightly so. Yeah, it's a valid argument, isn't it? But we have also seen Dorgu play on the right, so albeit not under Michael Carrick, there's another option for him. So we really don't know what Dorgu's best position is yet, I would say. Katie says Rashford will never go to Arsenal. They lack the ambition he desires. Oh, big up Rashmano. Hope you're well. Good to see you in the chat. Yeah, as Rich says, this is a new incarnation of the channel. So yeah, good to have you on board again, Rashmano. Katie says Arsenal reaching the final boosts English side's coefficient. Yeah, I mean for next season we're guaranteed that fifth spot, aren't we? Potentially even a sixth spot, depending on how other teams get on in the Europa League. But yeah, I mean for the long term, if you look at it in that respect, it's good for English football. Maybe not for our rivalry with Arsenal. We know what they can be like. They're fans, but yeah, unfortunately, they have reached the Champions League final tonight. But does that make a difference to what Marcus Rashford may think of these offers coming in? Bayern, Arsenal, both going deep into the Champions League. And as Rich says, usually tends to be Tuesday evening for me on YouTube. Either 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. Depends on stories, depends on what else is on. Tonight, for instance, we have the Champions League. So tend to try and miss the big games. Know they're popular with our audience as well. So, but yeah, usually on a Tuesday night, Gregory. Katie says critics lie in wait for Carrick to fail. Yeah, I can't help but think that is the case. He's getting a lot of credit at the minute from the media. I think he's had a pretty good ride when you consider and factor in his lack of experience at the top level. Obviously, was manager down in the Championship for a couple of years with Middlesbrough, but beyond that, he's only got coaching experience. So I think he's had some good praise, and I can understand why, because the results have been fantastic. If you look at the 14 games that he's been in charge in the Premier League, we'd be top of the table by 5 points. So, there's no other team that's doing as well as United in that time. And you can only wonder what would have been if he'd come in at the start of the season. But there we go. But yeah, you know what it's like as a United manager. You lose 2 games, and back-to-back defeats for United is just unthinkable. You'll get savaged by the media. United Till I Die says apparently United have sent a 120 million bid for Fermin Lopez, but Barcelona rejected it. Fichaeus publication posted an article about it, but I don't know how credible this is. What I would say is on that particular source, Fichaeus, I think they throw a lot of stories out, and when one comes in, they can be the one to say, we said it first. I'm not, I don't hold any kind of credibility to Facheas at all, to be honest. I haven't heard this story myself, but I'd be very skeptical of anything coming out of that outlet. But Fermin Lopez, I mean, he's a great player, really good player. So if that one came true, then I'd be really happy. But Mickey says dividends start again this year, and most loans need renewing. Plus 40 million servicing the debt. How much transfers? How much money? Sorry, left for transfers. It's a millstone around the neck, isn't it? That the debt, it has been for since the Glazers came in. But one thing Jim Ratcliffe said when he came in was he wanted to make us the most profitable club in the world. And if he stays true to his word, then I would suggest he needs to get that debt repaid in some way. However they achieve it, that debt needs to go. So whether that's put onto the owners instead of the club, or whatever it takes to get that interest that we are paying on that debt, that needs to be removed from the club. Yeah, as Rich says, I was just listing injury-prone players Bayern have sold us. Actually, when you look at it like that, yeah, they have, haven't they? Hargreaves was terribly injury-prone. De Ligt's been injury-prone. Mazraoui, you could say he's been injury-prone at times as well. Has there been any others? There must have been a few others as well that I'm not thinking about here. Good night, Yarli. Thanks for tuning in. See you again on the next show. United Till I Die says Kyle McCauley, who's currently part of the scouting department at Manchester United, was head of scouting for West Ham when they signed Matheus Fernandes from Southampton. That's another player we've been linked to, isn't it? Fernandes. Good player. Good player. I think he's only young, though. He's only, 21, 22? So whether he's ready to step in and into that pressure cooker midfield Manchester United at that age. I know Kobe Mainoo's done it. I would say he's an exception. I do like Fernandes. I think he's one for the future. Really good player. But yeah, I don't want that to be the marquee signing. I would like him to come in maybe as the third choice. I think he's a good player. But it's good to see that we're bringing in, scouts with a proven track record of successful transfers, isn't it? Old man Machi, I hope you're well. Says, I like the raw power that Dorgu has to offer, but I prefer someone on the left that can cross the ball in. I would play him at left back and put most of our summer transfer funds into central midfield. I mean, Dorgu's crossing, his final product in general was probably his biggest criticism for the first maybe 12 months of his United career. Then, when he was played further forward, we saw, okay, he's got a hell of a shot on him when he's got time and space. We've seen 2 or 3 spectacular goals just before his injury, and he can just drive with the ball and cause problems by just running at defenders, committing defenders, winning penalties, free kicks, and he's pressing as well. So I don't know. I don't know. I thought when he played at left back, I thought he did a decent job defensively. He's had some criticism of his defensive abilities, but I'm not sure I saw that, to be honest. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see, wouldn't it? I think over the next 12 months, we'll probably see a bit more of what Dorgu's all about, because it was just really bad timing to get that injury. It would have been great to see him in this team playing so well. Gregory says that opens up another issue, which would be if we bring in a left centre back, will that stunt the advancement of Aiden Heaven? Do you know what? This is not going to be for everyone, but I would say Aiden Heaven, in the short time he's been a United player, has proven that he can be. I would be happy for him to be the starting centre back at United next season, at left centre back. I really would. I think he's that good that he can do it. Katie says we might need someone drastic to force Barca's hands. Maybe injuries or a serious bid from another club. I think the closer we get to the summer transfer window now, there's gonna be rumours of concrete offers come in. I think so. I think there's definitely going to be bids tabled as clubs start to make their move. You know, we're coming to the close now of the season. I think clubs are going to operate earlier than they usually would in terms of making inquiries, etc., formally because of the World Cup. So, yeah, hopefully we will see some activity soon on this one. And this is a great point from United Till I Die. He says, "Why can we never offload our injury-prone players, but other teams can?" Yeah, we seem to be a magnet, don't we? You know, Mason Mount, De Ligt, Mazraoui. Who else have we had in the past? Hargreaves, like we said earlier. There's been so many. There's been so many, and yet we always have a problem, don't we? Trying to get rid of ours. And as Katie says, if you can hit the subscribe button if you're new, that would be much appreciated. And also, if you haven't done already, please hit the like. Solly, welcome to the chat. Hope you're well. He says, I think you're talking here about Bastian Schweinsteiger, one of the greatest midfielders. Didn't we get him from Bayern? Yes, we did. We did. We got him from Bayern. We all knew about his body by the time he came to United. He was beyond his best years. He didn't play too many games for United, actually. I was surprised when I looked back the other week. I think I looked last week at Bastian Schweinsteiger's stats, and he'd only played like 17 or 18 games. I couldn't believe it. But I think when he came in, was it under Louis van Gaal? Then Mourinho came in, and I think Mourinho's first action as a United manager was to bench, or not even bench. He sent him to play with the academy, didn't he? He banished him, from the training ground. Big up, Mr. B, the Brentford fan. Hope you're well. Hope you're well. Thanks for tuning in, as always. Yeah, good one. Heaven sent. He is heaven sent, isn't he? What a steal! If we can get another transfer like that done this summer, I would be absolutely over the moon. And United Till I Die says he would take Fernandes and even Fofana as well. Katie says if England and Rashford have a good World Cup, it smells trouble for Barca. This is the game, isn't it? This is the game that they're playing. They're taking a risk by not wrapping up this transfer because, to me, 26 million is just an absolute no-brainer. I couldn't believe that option to buy was even put in the conditions, to be honest, because that is an absolute steal. And you know, if like Pundit Katie's saying, if he has a good World Cup, then there's going to be other teams looking at him more seriously. Of course, he's a well-known name. It's not like he's not going to be a surprise to anyone, but he may surprise a few people with his level of performance. J Red MUFC, hope you're well. Thanks for tuning in. Just lost 95 minutes of my life watching the dull Champions League game. Bring on tomorrow. I can't wait for us to be back in the Champions League next season where we belong. That's exactly why I didn't watch it. I watched last week's snooze fest, Arsenal against Atletico, and I wasn't going to be fooled twice, so I didn't tune in tonight at all. I didn't see even 1 minute of it. But just moving on then. I'll move on to the next slide. And this is, if we do move on Marcus Rashford, then, what are your preferences for left-wing options? Just 5-10 minutes, just to get your thoughts, opinions, etc. Names linked recently. We've got Anthony Gordon, got Rafael Leao, who's one that's been mentioned quite a lot this week. Morgan Rogers hasn't been mentioned so much recently, but he was another option on the left. Used to be Trashford. Yeah, he got a lot of stick from United fans, Mr. B, in that last season, where at times he was walking. I think he'd lost passion for. I don't know whether it was playing for the manager or playing for the club, but something wasn't right. He needed a change of scenery, I think. But he seems to have developed a liking for Barcelona and paella. So, yeah, I mean, he's certainly rediscovered some form at Barcelona. Pundit Katie says, I see only one option. Morgan Rogers. The other two are just like adds to me. I'll skip. Yeah, I mean, personally, I think Anthony Gordon would be, or he would cost way more than what he's worth. So I wouldn't go near Anthony Gordon. Morgan Rogers, he's gone off the boil a bit the last probably 3 months. So maybe that could have been a bit of a purple patch. We don't know. It's difficult to say, isn't it, without watching them week in, week out. And then Rafael Leao. I don't think he's been ripping up any trees this season for Milan. I watched him actually in a match recently, and they were playing against Juve, I think, and he didn't impress me that game. It's not. I mean, that's just a one-off. I've seen him in the Champions League. I've seen him in that game recently. But yeah, he's a good player, but I'm not sure I would trust him to cut it in the Premier League week in, week out. J Red says, I'll always rated Anthony Gordon. I would go for him. He looked a very good player at Everton. I have to say that. I think part of the problem with Anthony Gordon is he's been used as a striker a lot this season for Newcastle, which is not his position. I just don't think he's effective through the centre. He's a good player on the left wing. He's got tremendous pace. He can get to the byline. He can also cut in and commit defenders in the box. He takes defenders into the box where they don't want to go. So when he's doing that, he can be a very useful player. Solly says none of them quite do it for him. United Till I Die says, Leao, I wouldn't touch. He's been shifted centrally and he's just not outputting enough. Rodgers, I don't think he'll handle the pressure at United and he's relaxed at Villa. And Gordon, definitely not. Yeah, when I saw Leao recently, he was playing as a split striker with that American player who used to play for Chelsea. His name's completely vanished out of my head now. So yeah, they were playing very much as like two kind of central to wide strikers. It was quite a strange formation they were playing in. Pulisic was the person I was trying to think about. Christian Pulisic. Mickey says Dorgu is Rashford's replacement. What are we doing? Gordon is a Liverpool fan. Well, yeah, I didn't want to say it, but being a Scouser, I'm not sure that would be everyone's cup of tea, to be honest. United Till I Die isn't a big fan of Gordon either. When the going gets tough, he jumps ship. We've got evidence of that, haven't we? He left Everton. Some would say that may have been because they were desperate for the money. You can give him the benefit of the doubt there, but when things have got tough at Newcastle, they haven't been performing to the expectations, really, that they were, well, where they're expected to get to in the league this season, which is probably challenging for Europe. They've been nowhere near. And, I think you've got to take accountability for that as a player. You were part of that. Lumen, hope you're well, says, how important is loyalty in a player? Yeah, and I guess when we're talking about Anthony Gordon, that's probably a prime example, isn't it? Is that a loyal player? Or is he just going to be using us to try and get to his next club? But I would say there's not really a step up for Manchester United. You don't often see players leave United and kick on in their careers. There's the odd exception. Ronaldo at Manchester United went to Real Madrid, kicked on. But apart from that, you could argue Beckham probably was about on equal terms to what he did at United, arguably. But he did get dropped in the end at Madrid and fought his way back. But I wouldn't say it was necessarily a step up in his career. Ollie Biscuit Barrel says Yildiz would be his pick. Pundit Katie says we've been on about Ndiaye at Everton, but he was wasteful against City. Yeah, he's a very skillful player. I get what you mean. I don't think he's the most polished at times with his end product, but he is a danger, and maybe he can become. The best players in the world are consistently brilliant, aren't they? And that's why when you talk about world class players, it's because they make the right decision every time. Kvaratskhelia is a great example. He's world class because he makes the best decision every time. And Jai is working towards being a player that can even come into the conversation to be compared with someone like Kvaratskhelia. So he's still on the development path. Big up, Jeff. Hope you're well. All the way from USA. What time is it there, Jeff? Mr. B says, get Harvey Barnes. I like Harvey Barnes. I thought he was good at Leicester. Very good player. He's actually a very good. He's got a lot of attributes that I see being useful at United, particularly the way he drives with the ball and his strength. He's got an absolute engine on him as well. So very much in the Dorgu mould, but probably at this point has got a bit more finesse about him. Dorgu's very raw, but yeah, very much in the same mould. Solly says Dorgu could even end up on the right if we get a solid left back and a winger, and Ahmad doesn't maintain some form. Could end up Dorgu on the right. Yeah, Ahmad's an interesting one, isn't it? I've seen some conversations on social media this week. People maybe saying, "Is it time for an upgrade on Ahmad? He hasn't been great since the Afcon." I'd be prepared to give Ahmad another year. I think he did. He was exceptional last year, albeit in a team that wasn't performing. So you could say, well, it's easy to stand out, but I would flip that and say, while the chips were down and other people weren't performing, Ahmad was performing. So I would say that was good mental strength. The fact that he's gone through a bit of a dip in form, I think there's reasons for that. There's been 3 managers in situ this season, different systems, formations, different partners in the team. I'd cut him some slack, I think, Ahmad. Barnes turns 29 in December. Wow, I didn't know that. It doesn't seem like 5 minutes since he was playing for Leicester. 29. Oh, that probably rules him out then, Harvey Barnes. Big up Neil Driscoll. Hope you're well. Lewis Hall. Yeah, Lewis Hall's absolutely terrific. That's probably the first player I would take from Newcastle is Lewis Hall. Jay Red says, could Rashford still have a place in our team if we can't sell him? I know Michael Carrick is a massive fan. Yeah, I think United have pretty much confirmed that he won't be returning. It's a decision from the hierarchy rather than Michael Carrick. I think Michael Carrick would work with Marcus Rashford, but I think the club have accepted that it's time to move on. I think Rashford's accepted it's time to move on as well. So I don't think there's any appetite there from either the club or the player for that to happen. But Gregory says United has a history after Sir Alex retired of keeping players longer than they should. Instead, Sir Alex would have the post 30-year-old players on a 1-year contract. Yeah, I mean that was quite common, wasn't it? With Sir Alex and Arsene Wenger as well, notorious for giving players a 1-year contract when they reach their 30s. I think the difference being that in those days, there wasn't quite the we had the likes of Giggs, Scholes, Gary Neville, players of that caliber and that standing that grew through the Manchester United ranks, and really they were just happy to get another contract, albeit 1 year. It didn't matter to them. They were just in it for the love of the club, love of playing the game. It wasn't so much about the financial side. Of course, that came into it, as always, but it wasn't so much about that. Whereas nowadays, I think there's so many different reasons to move clubs. None more so than agents and all the lucrative sponsorships that come with different clubs and all that kind of stuff. It's a bit of a different game now. I think the players have far more power than they did back in those days. 450 in the US. Yeah. Hope you've had a good day, Jeff. Pundit Katie says Ahmad and Mbermo dropped off after AFCON. I guess the exertions and timing of the tournament didn't help. Yeah, I mean it's a bit of a coincidence, isn't it, that they both dropped off. One thing I would say is that they did obviously play together in a partnership on that right hand side when they were playing as a 3-5-2. So I would say that's probably just as much of an impact as well. But yeah, hopefully they get some rest this summer. Ivory Coast did Ivory Coast qualify for the World Cup? I know I think Mbermo's going to have a rest, isn't he? Because they're not qualified. Jeff said he would bag 50 million for Ahmad and bring in Shea Lacey to take his spot. Very promising player from the academy. Hopefully, we'll see him in the last couple of games of the season. Jeff, he impressed when he came on in a couple of games, didn't he? Then he got that red card, and I don't think we've seen him since then. Solly says Mbappe or Vinny Jr. might come available. Well, there's there's something's not right at Real Madrid. We've seen this kind of player power before, both at Real Madrid and PSG, which Mbappe used to be there as well. So I certainly wouldn't want them coming to Manchester United, and I don't think there's even a remote chance of either of those two transfers personally, but could happen. You never know, but I'd be extremely surprised. Just got a couple more slides. Just spend maybe just 5 minutes on each, and then any final questions you've got, as usual, just put them in the chat. But one story that has come out, it's really just reiterating something that we kind of already knew. And this is that the Napoli president has confirmed that Rasmus Højlund will definitely be joining Napoli in the summer. There was a 38 million obligation to buy, 38 million pounds obligation to buy from Napoli if they qualify for the Champions League, which it looks like they will do. But even if they don't qualify for the Champions League somehow, then that deal will go through anyway. It's been confirmed by the Napoli president. So that means United avoid a PSR loss on Rasmus Højlund, which is good for the books. But that's just to give you an update on that one. I think we all kind of knew that was going to happen anyway, or it was certainly very likely. But just to reiterate that one. Solly says we've become a feeder club for Napoli. Yeah, I mean, did you see the McTominay bicycle kick the other day? Where it was actually a bicycle kick to keep the ball in play from about on the goal line, and then he kept it alive, and then they scored. It was terrific. Yeah, Jeff says good for Højlund. I'd like to see him do well. I think it just didn't work at United. I think it was too early. I think with the change of manager that didn't help. I think the style of football we played didn't play to his strengths. So I just don't think it was a good fit really all round. And then you've also got the pressure of coming into the Premier League as well. But then, as well as that, being compared to another certain Scandinavian across the city as well, that just was a bit of an unfair comparison. Yeah, Jay Red says, good deal for Hoyland. Shame it never worked out for him. And Pundit Cady says, I think after the Hoyland sale, we'll get better at selling. I mean, the main thing on this one was we didn't make a loss in terms of on the books. Obviously, we made a loss in terms of we didn't sell him for the same amount that we bought him for, but on the books, it doesn't go down as a PSR loss. So that's important for both the Premier League and for UEFA competitions as well. So it's just good to get confirmation of that. We didn't want any of these scenarios like the Sancho one where all of a sudden at the 11th hour they end up sending him back to us. United Till I Die says, I'm so annoyed we didn't develop Hoyland. He's very good, just we don't develop strikers well. Interesting one, actually. If we didn't sign Sesko, or if you replace Hoyland, put Hoyland in this team this season, how do we think he would have done? Just a fun question. How do you think he would have done in place of Sesko this season? No right or wrong answer. And Katie makes a good point. Says Napoli needed Hoyland given the issues with Lukaku's injury and other issues at the club as well. United Till I Die says Hoyland would have banged with Carrick. I think Carrick's just got this ability to get the best out of this group of players. That's how it seems. We'll go on to the next slide in a minute, but he's getting plaudits from every angle at the minute, Michael Carrick. Katie says Hoyland is average at best. I did get a bit annoyed when I read an article earlier from a well-known newspaper in England, and it said Rasmus Hoyland has thrived in Napoli, and then it gave his goal-scoring return, and I think it was 11 goals in 32 games, something like that. And I thought that's not really thriving, is it? It's decent. It's what he was achieving at United in his first season, where we thought, all right, he's done okay. I don't think we said he was thriving, and certainly not thriving in the Italian league on those numbers this year. Jay Red says, do you think we should sign an experienced striker in the summer to support Sesko or another young striker? It's a good question. I think we need a second option. I think now Sesko is starting to prove what we might see next season. I think this has been a season of adjustment for him, and I think he's adjusted pretty well overall. I think each game that he plays, he shows us a bit more of a glimpse of what he can become. So I would be saying we need an understudy to Sesko. Now, whether that's an experienced striker, that could be a very good option. It's just who do you get in that's willing to play that kind of second fiddle to Sesko. I think I would probably bring in a more experienced striker personally, because I think we've got the likes of Chido who could play as the kind of third option, if you like, as a young player. So then you'd be left with Sesko as a starter, an experienced player as a rotation option, and then someone like Cheeto as your third player. Solly says Sesko is more of a handful for Prem defenders. We did the right thing. I thought he was exceptional in that first half against Liverpool. I was sad when he came off injured because I thought he had a really good game. He's just started to look like a complete forward package, and if he can do that consistently, that is going to be a really good player for us. Old Mickey says, I believe we should have kept Rasmus and sold Xerxes last year and bought a midfielder. Yeah, that was a strange one, keeping Xerxes, I've got to say. We didn't appear to have any intention to use him. So it's just a player that's kind of wasted a year of his footballing career, as far as I can tell. United Till I Die says Carrick did it at Borough too. He knows how to get strikers firing. Who was that? Was it Akpong? Was it Akpong? Where he got his best ever season, didn't he? As a striker, he scored something like 34 goals in the Championship. Yeah, great point from Cady as well. He never reached the add-ons that we were due to pay for him if he did achieve those performance-related goals. So, yeah, that's done us a favour as well. Mr. B says we've got a history of buying top players who underperformed. He's given the examples there of Veron, Alexis Sanchez, and Mkhitaryan as well. Mkhitaryan was just such a disappointment. I remember watching him in the Bundesliga because I used to watch the Bundesliga quite a lot back in those couple of seasons that he was at Dortmund, and he was a top player for them. He was really good. He was my favourite player in that league, and it just never happened for him in England. Never happened for him. Yeah, thanks for keeping the tab on the likes, Rich. 17 likes so far. If we could get that up to, or let's say, if we get that up to 25, that would be absolutely wonderful. So make sure you hit the like if you haven't done already. It's easy to miss it. Pundit Katie says the fixture pileup is too much for Sesko alone, plus Mbermo doesn't work well as a 9. I think Mbermo, he works well as a 9 in certain games. That's what I'd say. In certain games, like the Man City game, for instance, he's an excellent player to run in behind a high line. But when you've got teams like, let's say, I don't know, like an Everton or someone like that, where they're going to sit deep, they've got big, strong defenders. It's not that's gonna foil him because he doesn't have that physicality really, or that intricacy to work the space. Jeff says Xerxes seems too content to hang out on the United bench. Yeah, I'm just wondering, Jeff, is he going to be one of those players on the 25% bonus for Champions League qualification? If so, I can see why he wants to be on the United bench. Big up Cake, hope you're well. Says we don't need a left winger, we need centre backs and midfielders. I would certainly say they're the priority cake. Definitely. Definitely. I think there's always room for improvement, though. That's what I'd say. Big up, Berber, on your other account there. Hope you're well. And Rob, always United. Thanks as always for tuning in. Hope you're good. Yeah, I hope your stream went well, Berber. Thanks for popping in. And really, the last story then. I'll just recap the first one. The first one was there is a potential snag in the transfer of Rashford to Barcelona. It's believed that United are only going to bring in a replacement if and when we get Marcus Rashford out of the door on a permanent sale. Bayern and Arsenal are interested in taking up Marcus Rashford if that deal doesn't conclude with Barcelona. So it's going to be a waiting game now, a bit of a game of chess to get Rashford to a club as quickly as possible, and also the complication of the World Cup as well. We then talked a bit about left wing options. There were just three on the screen there that have been linked to us in recent weeks. And then we had a bit of a discussion about who we would all prefer, not necessarily of these three, but just generally. We've then had the Rasmus Højlund confirmation from the Napoli president that it will definitely happen in the summer. It's a certainty. And the last one really is just reports that the United hierarchy are all internally aligned on Michael Carrick being the next boss. So he's now a heavy favourite for that position. Just thoughts on this one, just a couple of minutes to gauge opinion, and then we'll call it a night. But what are your thoughts on this? Obviously, it's changing week by week. We've had the big win now against Liverpool that's cemented that position in the top four for us, or should I say top five. But better than that, I think we're now 6 points clear of fourth place. So it looks like top three, which is a phenomenal achievement, really, considering where we were, and given that Michael Carrick is a rookie in terms of Premier League management as well. Oh, big up Ron Wayne. Hope you're well. United TV rocks. Thanks very much. You rock as well. United Till I Die says, I'm a little disappointed. Don't get me wrong, I like Carrick, but have they tried to contact Ancelotti or Enrique? I think Enrique is, if we're honest, I think at this time, I don't think he would want the job at United. I think we're just not at that level at the minute. It's where we want to get to, but I think at the minute right now, he's probably just out of reach, I would say. Ancelotti seems to be, is he still at Brazil? In the Brazil the World Cup bid with Brazil? I think he's got his eyes and attention elsewhere. The names we've been linked with this week are Iriola, which seems to be a strong one, particularly as Bilbao have just, I think they've confirmed a new appointment, haven't they? Which means that is a job that he was heavily tipped to go into, and therefore that's no longer an option. So potentially Iriola is, well, it's been talked about. I don't know how much truth there is in that really, but big up Dirk Stog. Hope you're well as well. Thanks for tuning in. Mr. B, you've got quite a list there. I've forgotten about some of these. Big flops at Manchester United: Anthony, Sancho, Pogba, Falcao, Depay, Van de Beek, Zaha, Bebe, Schneidlin. Yeah, I don't think you can include Bebe. I think that was just a speculative transfer, but all the others came with a high expectation, didn't they? Pundit Cady says, back Carrick with proper recruitment and clear out to get the next level out of the squad. I think it's. I think once. I think the club just need to say what they're doing, don't they? I think once they make an announcement, either way, if it's that Manchester United are going to appoint Michael Carrick, then we can all get behind it because I think the speculation will be over. We know who's going to be in charge, and I think it will just calm the nerves of some United fans. I think this speculation is not good for all the kind of uncertainty that it creates. So I think the sooner we know, I think the sooner we'll be able to get behind whoever the next manager is. Solly says, fine with Carrick for now. Give it at least one of our managers a proper team. Then we'll see what he's made of. United DNA for now. Yeah, I mean, Carrick's been able to galvanise this set of players for whatever reason. Ruben Amorim wasn't able to. So Carrick has already got one up on previous managers. He's able to galvanise what he's got in front of him. I think the question is, can he take us to the next level? So can he bring in new players, whether that's new players that the club have brought in, but can he work with them? Players that are not Manchester United players that have never worked with him before. Does he demand that same level of respect? I think that's the question mark. United Till I Die says, I'm a very big Carrick fan, but I want our ownership to see if we can try for an elite manager. Mr. Chris Baker, hope you're well. Thanks for tuning in. Chris Baker says, who wants a manager from a one-team league? Talk sense. I think there's something to be said for Carrick's understanding of this football club, and he played in a very successful era at United, so he knows what it takes. Mini Wayne, hope you're well. Are you any relation to John Wayne that's sometimes in the chat? Hope you're good. Thanks for tuning in. As Katie says, smash a like, hit the subscribe if you're new. We're on our way to 1K. This is a very friendly community. Lots of familiar faces in the chat you'll be able to talk to every time you come into the stream. Always looking to have a good conversation, and we'll always get your comments up on screen as well. Mr. Chris Baker says, Erik ten Hag dominated the Dutch Eredivisie. Amorim dominated the Superliga in Portugal. Why go for the guy dominating France? Good question. Good question. One thing I would say to put forward an argument for Enrique would be he managed to do what others haven't in terms of qualifying for the higher rounds in the Champions League. He's obviously won the Champions League as well, so he's done what others couldn't. He's also revolutionised that squad, obviously with the backing of the board there. But he has revolutionised the squad, got rid of the player power, etc. Uh, Cake says interims don't work out long term. It always ends badly. And Mickey says Carrick's problem will unfortunately be every other manager's problem, not being backed. He needs the players and staff, not what's available. We are United, and teams like Bournemouth have plans. What's ours? Cake says Carrick is basically Ollie. I would disagree slightly on this, Cake. I think you've got to take people as individuals. Now they've come into the job in similar circumstances. I'll agree with you, but I think that they've got two different experiences. Ollie obviously came from the Norwegian league. Michael Carrick has come from Middlesbrough, so he's been in this country, perhaps more attached and knows more of the English game than what Solskjaer did when he came in. How it ended up, I think it's a different era of Manchester United now. We've got a different ownership. I know the Glazers are still here, but uh, in terms of football operations, I think there's a new ownership. There's more support behind the scenes for the manager, for any manager that comes in now. I think they're given a better structure. So I think the club is in a different era, and I think, generally speaking, to compare two different managers is it's not always apples and apples. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, Jeff. I didn't see your good night. There we go. There we go. Good night, Jeff. Thanks for tuning in. United Till I Die says Fabregas is one of the top coaches at the minute, and he's taken Como to another level. So it's about recruitment rather more so than full on experience. Even experienced managers will struggle with no depth. Yeah, there's examples for and against all the time, isn't there? Ancelotti, when he came to Everton, he didn't have the players that he did at Real Madrid, so he wasn't able to get results like he did at Real Madrid. I mean, it's quite simple, isn't it? Sometimes you don't have the players. Your players have a ceiling, and that is the limitation of that squad. And so, Carrick has to be backed with players that are capable of challenging for the Premier League. Otherwise, over the long term, he's not going to challenge for the Premier League. But I just want to say, as I'm going to wrap up now, but I just want to say thank you to all the comments. There's been so many. I haven't been able to show all of them, but hopefully I've got some up from everyone in the stream. And just, yeah, thanks for tuning in. Rich will be back tomorrow, as he always is, to carry on the Manchester United content. But please, if you haven't done already, hit that like, hit the subscribe as well if you're new. I should be back again next Tuesday as well for another late night stream, either 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. We'll see how it goes. But until then,